Right now on Andrea Mitchell Reports, Meet the Press. Coming up here, President Obama holding his first full-blown press conference since winning re-election. It was supposed to be a victory lap, a chance to lay out his second-term priorities. Instead, the president will be facing questions about the widening Petraeus scandal, which has now enveloped Petraeus' successor in Afghanistan, General John Allen. Petraeus has agreed to testify at a closed Senate intelligence hearing later this week on a separate problem, intelligence failures surrounding the attack on Benghazi. Republican Senator John McCain is calling for a broader Watergate-style panel to investigate.
For the sake of the families of those 4 brave Americans who sacrificed their lives, they and the American people deserve answers.
NATO.
No one should leap to any conclusions here. General Allen is doing an excellent job at ISAF in leading those forces. He certainly has my continued confidence. Continue the fight.
General Allen is a commander who's been an important part of the NATO ISAF mission in Afghanistan.
And more on Jill Kelly, the Tampa socialite who is friendly with both 4-star generals. Apparently, we're reporting that she has lost her base privileges at Medill Air Force Base. But she and her twin sister did have a brief stint on reality TV, appearing on the Food Network nearly a decade ago.
We want to go up against guys because it's nice to exploit their weakness, which is their ego.
Plus, Nancy Pelosi deciding to go for another term as Democratic leader. But her big announcement didn't go exactly as planned.
Said yesterday we did not have the majority, but we have the gavel. Excuse me. We don't have the gavel. We don't have the... We have our own gavel. We have something more important. Unity.
And they certainly have woman power in that photo op. And good day. I'm Andrea Mitchell, live in New York. Within the hour, President Obama will be holding his first news conference in 8 months, the first since his re-election. Reporters are likely going to be asking about a lot more than the fiscal cliff, as important as that is, now that the president's national security team is coping with an expanding scandal. Congress is drilling down on its investigation into Benghazi. Joining me now from the White House, NBC's Chuck Todd, chief White House correspondent, political director, host of the Daily Rundown, and enjoying a front row seat at today's event. Chuck, what are you expecting to hear from the president?
Well, look, as you point out, the opening statement's going to be all about the fiscal cliff. And the whole point of this press conference was about setting, this was their intention, right? About setting sort of the parameters of the public debate where they are on fiscal cliff. But of course, we haven't questioned him in over 8 months. There are questions about Benghazi. There are questions about the Petraeus thing. How did the FBI, is the president pleased with? It seems that there's a little bit of a pattern here of, it seems to take a while for certain information to get to the White House a little bit. What is his reaction to that? So this is his first comment, so we're going to hear since the whole David Petraeus mess exploded. So obviously that's going to be some of the news. I can tell you the White House folks are not happy that half the press conference is not going to be about fiscal cliff, since that, of course, is what is front and center. All these deadlines are facing them. The irony to this is, Andrea, had they done the post-election press conference when it traditionally was been held back in Bush and Clinton a couple of days after the election, there wouldn't have been a question about David Petraeus.
If he had held it in Chicago the morning after, traditionally that is when this is done.
Or even Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Although by Thursday, his national security team knew and was about to inform him about the Petraeus possibility of resignation.
Maybe all the more reason why they wanted to delay.
Let's talk for a moment first about the fiscal cliff. The business leaders who came in and following, of course, the labor leaders and others who came in yesterday to talk about the bargaining and the terms of reference. What did he hear from the business community about what bargaining points he should be making and how important it is or isn't to avoid
Well, the business community wants, as you know, they just want certainty. That's what they care about more than anything else. They want some certainty. The question is going to be is how much of an ally can they be to the president? He has a very specific goal that he has in mind, which is, number one, decoupling the Bush tax rates, if you will, for the wealthy, $250 for couples and above, and everybody else. It's a bill that's already passed the Senate. The president wants to get that enacted into law and then have the discussion about tax reform. And the question is going to be, does he try to get the business community's support on that front and say, look, I can get you certainty for a year as we do the larger conversation on corporate and personal tax reform. And I think that the question is going to be is how much does the business community push back and say, hey, you know, don't draw too big of a fight. Don't threaten to go over the fiscal cliff, if you will, in order to get your way. That's not going to make the business world happy either.
I have to believe that along the margins of either this meeting or other follow-up meetings, they are also weighing in. He has to be asking what to do about Treasury. We believe that Jack Lew is the front runner. But what are you hearing about that?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. There's Jack Lew, and then there's everybody else. You know, there's some other names out there, and you hear Erskine Bowles, and you hear Roger Altman, a former deputy back during the Clinton years. But I've talked to some White House people that actually would like some fresh names, would like some fresh ideas. It's not 100% certain that Jack Lew is going to get the job. There is some support for him inside the White House. But if not, and on the margins, that's going to be interesting to see if they give him some fresh ideas on that front.
Chuck Todd, you've got a busy day. Thanks so much for starting with us.
All right.
And each day brings new details. Last week. Joining me now with Pete Williams, correspondent Michael Isikoff, and NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Kelly O'Donnell, where a lot of questions are being asked as Congress has returned today. First to you, Pete. Bring us up to date.
To Jill to be harassing, and also we now know to General Allen. General Allen did something with his emails. He forwarded them to Jill Kelly, and he also sent them to someone at the Pentagon for them to look into. When Jill Kelly then went to the FBI, her agent friend, in June to complain about all these emails, she had both the ones sent to her, we now know by Paula Broadwell, as well as whatever emails were sent to General Allen and forwarded to her. So she had that all those together. I think, Andrea, it's fair to say that in terms of investigations now, it's all but over for the FBI, except for one last question, and that is, was there some sort of a classified document violation on the part of Paula Broadwell? Did she either have access to things she shouldn't have, or more likely, was she improperly storing them on her personal computer and her house? That's what the search on Monday night was all about. The people I've talked to say it doesn't appear to be anything major. I suppose the prosecutors in Tampa could go either way on whether they want to pursue charges here, but it doesn't seem at this point like she had any, truly significant danger to national security kind of documents sitting around her house.
Now, Michael Isikoff, what we also know from our colleague Jim Miklaszewski at the Pentagon is that her base pass to MacDill Air Force Base, a courtesy pass that citizens who do work on the base and have relationships through different community service groups, that has now been revoked. And it's unclear exactly what level of engagement she had at the base. But what more are we learning about Jill Kelly and her connections in the Tampa community?
Well, quite extensive, apparently. And remember that the emails, these anonymous emails from Paula Broadwell, and which we understand, by the way, came from as many as 5 or 6 anonymous accounts, one of which was initially named Kelly Patrol. We've confirmed that. But those emails, which came to her, but we do know, and I think we didn't have. So just from that alone, there's a suggestion that she was making the most of the connections that she did have.